And we are live. Tracy Ortolano. God, I really should practice your last name. This is why I don't
Sound
do
it out.
both.
You got it.
We've
You
had
can
like
do it.
10 minutes chatting. We should have practiced that.
Please introduce yourself, Tracy, because I'm doing a terrible job.
Hi, I'm Tracy Ortolano. And let me tell you, it took me a lot of years to be comfortable saying that as well, because, that's not my original name. That's my married name. So
Was
So we
it
can
was it
blame your
move up
husband.
or?
what's that?
I mean, some people have names that they're really happy to get rid of when they get married.
Mine was Tracy Ward. So just, boring old Ward. Now I have a name with interest that nobody can say.
That's right. My name is Rosaire. I
Yeah.
feel your pain.
So, Tracy, why on earth are you on this show? Do you not have better sense?
Apparently I do not. I have equal sense to you both for
Oh,
inviting me.
so
No,
sorry.
it was great. How long ago? I think it was a month ago now, Mike, that we met
Yep.
at the Stafford Book Festival and
Yep.
did my rounds and met tons of fabulous authors, including yourself. And we got chatting about your podcast. And you told me, and I will repeat you, we don't have many women on our podcast. You should be a guest. And I laughed because when I looked, I'm like, you have lots of women. So, but anyway, yeah, we got talking.
Only in the
And
last 6 months. The first year it was pretty male heavy.
Gotcha.
But we are at least aware of these things, and we are trying to be inclusive to everyone. So
Yeah, sure.
you need the different perspectives. You can't just have a bunch of people like Mike and I.
Yep.
Oh, God, no, not that.
Dan, I'm drinking water, man. Just
Yep. Water.
icky
Water.
H2O.
I have my fancy Olipop
Mm.
botanical soda.
I really wanted to like those so badly.
I know.
They just there's something in them that it's like licking aluminum foil.
A little bit. You kind of got to work up to it. But I thought that was better than an energy drink because I'd be a little
Oh yeah.
shaky.
I've heard though with the Olipops, if you cut them with like vodka or rum or something first to get used to them, it helps a lot, and then you can kind of start weaning yourself up that. And
You have to
just
put
drink the rum plain.
liquor in there to make it tolerable.
There you go.
So Tracy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm trying to find your website or something to put on the crawl.
Sure.
Which one should I use?
You can use tovoice.net.
Okay.
Again, something we could have talked about 15 minutes ago, but
yes. So
that's all right.
I will get it now. Ro, go ahead, take it.
Yeah. So what, Tracy? You don't write books. What do you do?
All right.
I'm book adjacent.
I am book adjacent. I'm an audiobook narrator. So I like to use my friend's quote. She said I could use it. She said, I bring voices to the voices in all the authors' heads. So that's what I do.
Nice.
Yep.
I don't know if there's some characters maybe that you might not want to do that with.
Yeah, I mean, you don't always love all of your characters. You don't always love all the genres that you might be auditioning for or reading. Some characters are harder than others, of course. Obviously, if it's a female in my range, super comfortable. And then it's really fun to play though and do other voices. In a lot of my books, I've done men, women, older, younger, some with some accents, although accents, you got to be really authentic and make sure you can carry it for a long, long time. So if there's some lines where you might have a sub character that might have just a couple lines, I can pull that off with a couple accents. But well,
you're lucky. I think a lot of writers have the same problem writing characters with accents. It's good for a couple of words or a few pages,
right?
But then a couple chapters in, it's like, wait, didn't this guy have an accent? Like,
where does accent go? Yeah, well, and I know a lot of VO friends that they're just like they study the accents as much as I would study my narration craft. So you have to make that choice to do it. So I imagine as a writer, if you're making a choice to put someone in your book with an accent, you've got to commit to that and carry it through the whole book.
You would think so.
You would.
So Tracy, I want your take on this. The one piece of advice I was given before I got my first audiobook done was a fellow author. He said, Mike, I went listen to 31 different auditions. And he goes, and I was like, I was thinking maybe this one, maybe that one. He goes, and then the 32nd one, I heard the voice that I hear in my head. And he goes, and that's it. He goes, this has to be it. God, I hope I can afford them. So what would your advice be for if you're looking for audiobook narrators other than, you can't have barking dogs? I did have one guy who's like, please excuse the barking dog in this audition.
No, he did not.
And I'm like, no, I will not.
No. Oh my gosh. That's kind of crazy. Well, I mean, my opinion, and probably you nailed it, or whoever gave you that advice was spot on. I mean, sometimes you are so tied to a character and you in your head knows what that person is going to sound like, what that character is going to sound like, and you might just hear it. But what if you don't, right? Like, what if you
Right.
don't hear it? You definitely want someone that you feel like is, not working too hard and too authentic. Like, I can turn around and ask you guys too, in terms of like, do you like a voice that does all the different characters and gets really dramatic? Or do you like the type of voice that's just kind of, like if I'm doing a male, I might not try to sound like a male, but I might just drop my pitch, drop my pace. I might up my machoism, whatever, like the more subtle things. So
Yeah.
some authors really like the subtle and some really like the heavy dramatic type of reads. So I guess as an author, you would know what you prefer. I certainly prefer listening to the more subtle changes as long as I can hear the
Yeah.
difference between the characters. So
So
it,
I'm probably not the one to ask. I'll tell you, the guy who did my fantasy novels, he did a couple, and then he's like, "Okay, Mike, this guy, what kind of accent do you want me to give him?" I'm like, "Oh no, he's actually the same one, but he's going home, so he's using his given name instead of." He goes, "Oh, okay, I have that down as being Southern Welsh." I'm like, "Oh, sure, yes."
You're like, that
Uh-huh.
works.
And I was like, "Oh, he was doing different accents, was he really?" I was like, "Okay, just over my head. No hair to, keep that thought." So it just kept going.
Yeah. Well, and it's good if it sounds like you're collaborating with your narrator. You don't always get to. Sometimes as a narrator, you book a book or whatever and you never meet the author. I think it's really cool, and that's why I one of the reasons I went to the book festival and met, folks like yourself is cuz like I want to meet the people behind the books and then we can kind of talk it through, and so I can bring out the best voices. Like, what were you thinking? I mean, like, is there some backstory? Is there some information you can share that will help me make some really great choices for your characters? So when you get to meet the author and hear their vision, that's really nice.
So
When you
I'm
get a
actually. Oh, go ahead.
when you get a job for a book, do you read through it first or yeah?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you can, what I like to do is make sure you read the whole book before you accept the contract too,
Mm.
because, you may think the book is going to be wonderful and it doesn't have to be a great book that you love, but one that's going to have like, it might have content later in the book that you might not have expected in the beginning, right? Just from the audition. So when you get it, if you're not comfortable with certain, I don't know, triggering scenes or topics or whatever, maybe you don't do erotic narration and all of a sudden there's some really R-rated, X-rated stuff that you didn't want to read that wasn't in the audition. So you really should read the whole book. In fact, a lot of narrators, and myself included, you end up reading the book multiple times. So, like, you do the audition, you read the book once, you agree to do the book, and then you sit down and really start prepping the book before you even get in the booth and start recording. So you're going to go in and read that whole book, probably do chapter summaries, probably do character summaries, you know, um, look up anything you can't pronounce, all that kind of stuff you do. So you might read it a couple times before you even start narrating.
Well,
So,
that segues nicely into, sorry, Mike,
oh, go
segues
ahead.
nicely into my next question and to the question from the chat. But have you ever had to narrate a book that you just hated?
Well,
Because
you
you
know,
don't get to DNF, right? I mean, if we don't like a book, we don't have to finish it,
yeah.
but you're stuck.
Um, well, if I said that, then like that would be kind of like making an author feel bad, maybe. Um, but I've had a very long book that I narrated that by the end I was like, I'm kind of glad this one's done. This story might not have ended as well as I thought, or something like that. But I think I've been lucky. I've enjoyed a lot of the books. That I've been able to narrate. And like I said, I've got well, I didn't say it here. I said it pre-show. A couple books that haven't come out yet that I've really enjoyed narrating. Hopefully, those will come out this fall or by the end of the year. So yeah, there's been some. Some are the long ones. I think are the hardest, like over 10 hours. Those get tiring after a while.
So a question for you, because I am actually, after this is over, I'm going to listen to my audiobook. The narrator's finished. I have to listen to it. But they asked, they're like, okay, tell us what voice, for this character. And I absolutely do not know. I don't recognize it. So I do things like, this one is like talking to a jock,
Mhm,
college athlete, very direct, and this one is a bureaucrat. This,
mhm.
and I'm like, sorry, that's the best I can give you.
Yeah.
Whatever you do is fine. I'm not going to notice the difference as long as you're consistent. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, the more information you can give about a character, I mean, even so far as like, what kind of relationships do they have with each other? Like, if you know that ahead of time, am I going to be, you know, um, curt or fast or warm, or like a mother's going to talk different to her son. So the relationships make a big difference in how you're voicing a character, like who's talking to each other. But definitely, like, if you have someone that's like, you have a character that you wanna that might be an angry jock or a happy jock or whatever, an aggressive person, you wanna tell us that. If you wanna hear them, if they're a fast talker, you get characters that are like, "Ooh, they're a fast talking, always joking." Are they what's their person like, remember, like, the character charts you did when you were writing as like, do a character map. Did you ever do that when you were, like, in school, like a character map where it's like, what do they look like? What do they sound like? Like, what is their attitude? What do people feel about them? What do they feel about others? Put all that together and then give it some characteristics in terms of, happy, sad, grumpy, arrogant, like all of those things that you can share might help. And if you're open and you can't really put it into words, let the actor have some fun with it and let them
Yeah.
make some choices. Because honestly, I think the narrators, once they get into the character or have read the book, the ones that have read the book, that's why you read it. So you can find it, kind of form your idea of the character and make some of those choices. And you might not even have thought of how someone heard, but a narrator might be like, I know exactly how to play this person because I'm channeling. They might not even be really channeling your character. They may be channeling like someone they know in their head. Like, oh, this guy reminds me of my friend so and so. I'm going to do that person, and that might work.
Yeah. I also, for my fantasy book, the narrator, who was from Bristol, England, which is where the story takes place roughly,
Mhm.
he's like, can you give me a pronunciation guide for all the characters? I'm like, well, I could, but you literally live there, dude. I'm sure you know better than me. And I have 3 times now people from England are like, thank you. You have a book where you pronounce the words properly. Thank you so much. And I'm like, that's not me. That has zero to do with me.
Yeah. Well, I've auditioned for books where they said, like fantasy books particularly, because the names are so interesting, right? And a lot of times, frankly, made up.
Interesting. Yeah.
Sometimes just, made up or crafted. And I've had auditions where it says, maybe not in these words, but it says, make up your pronunciation. I'm not particular. Like, and I was like, "Really? So I'm just gonna make up." Well, and yeah, so in those auditions, it's kind of funny. So even sometimes when the writers are like, you know, "Let me hear what you hear it as and how you would say it," right? So yeah.
You probably have
So
a better idea of that, more like a reader than the writer does anyway, though, because I mean, the writer gets so caught up in the whole thing that
Yeah.
they lose the experience of being a reader for that particular book. We go back real quick to Fantasy Sci-Fi Fanatics question. Are there books that you had that you felt you need to narrate this book after you read it the first time?
Let's see. Yeah, well, there is my nonfiction one that I'm working on right now. Um, I'm working with an author friend of mine who's written an anthology book for the trans population, and it's a collection of stories and things pulled together of real stories. It's a nonfiction book, and I really, really, really wanted to read this book for her and do it justice. It's been a labor of love for her as a writer. And so anytime you find someone like that where you're like, it's their passion thing and they feel good about it, and they're not like saying like, what's your lowest rate you can do for me? Right. Like, and this book, frankly, the nonfiction one that I've done, I probably would have done it for her for free. So, it's like when you find a book like that, that's the kind of books you really like to do. There's been
So
lots of auditions I thought I was perfect for and would have liked to have done, but didn't necessarily get awarded the book. And you're like, darn it, but you audition a lot, a lot, a lot. And so that happens.
yeah, I was going to say for my books, I put it out on ACX for auditions, and in 24 hours, I had 59 auditions.
Oh, that's not that many.
And I'm like, I'm like, how am I supposed to choose?
Yeah. Well, go through and knock off all the no's that have the dogs barking
Yeah,
or the terrible quality or someone who's too dramatic or whatever. You do a first pass, I think.
right.
And then you
Yeah.
get it down to your few that you really, really like. And then, like you said, if the voice doesn't just call to you, then you just gotta go with the gut and see.
So if 59 isn't too many, what is?
I mean, I've heard people say, "Oh my god, I got 100 plus auditions." And that's a lot to read through. So some people will like cut off so that they don't get any more. They're like, I don't care. I can't see any more hit my inbox. And then they'll like close it for accepting new auditions because it can be overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you overwhelmed?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I cut it off after 24 hours. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I don't get it in 58, then,
Yeah. And that's the challenge on ACX too, right? Like if I look at ACX, I'm like, ooh, I would love to do that audition. Auditions can take a lot of time to prepare, and like sometimes it's a little frustrating. You'll be like, okay, well, I've got these other things and blah, blah, blah. So in about an hour or so, I'll sit down and do this audition. And sometimes by the time you finish the audition, it's either closed or, there's so many people are just jumping on it. It's really competitive.
so stop telling the dog to be quiet and just go ahead and record.
Exactly, right? Yeah, you just hit that button and go.
So you look like you are in like a 2x2 space.
I just expanded it to 4x3. This is my booth. This is my expanded booth. Yes, I don't have the fancy background like most of your authors and guests on your podcast have, but I thought I'd give you the full experience of being in my booth. So, what I'm in is I do have a sacrificed walk-in closet that I've turned into a booth. So outside of these walls are a sound treated space with the audio mats and things hung on the wall. I'm in Northern Virginia, so it can be noisy where I'm at. So I spent a lot of time sound treating, not proofing, because that would cost millions of dollars. And then so I've created, a booth inside my closet, if you will. And I have broadcast quality sound, very good noise floor. I rarely have to do any work to my files when I'm done. Very quiet, very good sound comes out of this booth. And I spent the first couple of years of my career working with folks and engineers and trying to figure out what would create the best sound, absent buying a whisper booth or something like that I didn't have room for in my house anyway.
Have you ever been in one of those anechoic chambers?
In what kind of chamber?
You could go in it and you can't hear anything.
Oh,
It's just so quiet.
that would be weird, right? Like
It
it kind of
really
sounds
is.
like a
Yeah, it's
vacuum.
crazy.
Hmm.
You kind of go nuts in there after a while because it's just so quiet.
Too quiet. Yeah, yeah. You have to have a little sound, like, zero sound doesn't sound natural. And that's the other thing you can listen for too, Mike. And like when you said those auditions, some people process it so much that it sounds unnaturally quiet. Um, and so a real, for narrating is not 100% silence because that just sounds weird.
Yep.
By the fantasy and sci-fi fanatic.
EL, no. That's a dragon, dude. It's a dragon. So what should people like? So I'm looking at getting a book narrated.
Mhm.
What should I be looking at as far as I talked to one gentleman who said I can narrate it, but you're going to have to send it to somebody else to have them master it.
Mm,
Right.
okay.
So what is it that people should be on the lookout for when they are getting ready to hire a narrator for an audiobook?
Yeah, you definitely want a narrator that does, end to end. We may outsource pieces of it, but in my opinion, you shouldn't have to worry about that, right? Like you hire me, you do a per finished hour rate, and then I would take care of all the everything narration related. And I do work with an engineer. Actually, I've worked with a couple, but I have a favorite that I work with now that as I finish my chapters, I'll send them to him. And you don't need to get involved in any of that. He'll do proofing and editing, and then he'll do a final mastering for me to make sure it passes all specs. And so I can do that. It takes a ton of time, which is probably why the gentleman you spoke to said, I don't do that piece. I'm just going to narrate and give you like raw files and you go do the rest. That's fine. But, if you're talking about someone on ACX, they should be handling that all for you, whether they do it personally themselves or outsource it. That shouldn't really make a difference to you as long as it's done well and meets all the specs. I have done it by myself, but like I said, if you're doing a 10-hour book, it's it's a lot of work and a very detailed work it can be. There's lots of tools and software that are great. You can spend a lot of time learning all that software, and I go ahead and let my engineer take care of all of that.
So to read a 10-hour book,
Mhm.
I guess, how long does it take you? How much time do you spend a day reading? Because I have to think that that's not something you could just sit there and bang out 5 or 6 hours at a go.
You cannot, nor well, I can't. So for me, when I'm narrating, and I do a lot of long form e-learning stuff too, so it's not just audiobooks, and it depends on how dense the materials are. But usually for me, I can be in the booth narrating for probably about an hour and a half at a time. And then I can tell, that I just feel dry. And I mean, you're trying to stay hydrated, right? But you start fading and start finding yourself having to repeat the line again, or, go back and do the punch and roll in because you made a mistake, or I don't know, an hour and a half at a time. And then I take a break. So, I can go in for a couple sessions in one day, but there's no way people, unless they're like amazing, can go sit down for 8 or 10 hours and read a whole book at one time. You should expect to, like when you're narrating, that's the thing a lot of people don't realize. If you've got like a 5-hour book, the narrator is probably spending, on average, for every 1 hour completed that you're listening to, it took them probably, 3 hours to read and narrate for you. So 1 to 3 is good. Really, you know, new people might be, like if you've never done it before, you might even be 1 to 4. You're 3 to 1 EL. Yeah, that's fantastic. Like that's what I would think most people are. And like I said, it depends on, how dense it is, how many characters there are, how much you're going back and forth. Like there's a lot of things to that, but it takes a lot of hours. So you can't do it all at once.
So, question for you: when you're listening to audiobooks,
Mhm.
one, are you able to just listen and enjoy, or are you critiquing the art of the?
That's a funny question because I was expecting you to ask me, do you listen to audiobooks all the time? And for that question, my answer would be no, for the exact reason of the question you asked me. So, unless the narrator is like, and the story just kind of takes me away, I do have trouble sometimes listening to others narrate. Because, and I'm listening to one right now, and I'm really distracted by the voice and any mistakes, or um, I get really distracted by mouth noise, like when people are doing have like clicks and clacks and stuff. I don't know, that's just me, but and then it pulls me out of the story. I've also listened to books where the narrator was so dramatic that it just kind of it wasn't for me. So most listeners, I think, have certain styles they like to listen to, but
Mhm.
when you're a narrator, it's to the next level because you're listening really you're trying not to, but you can't help listen to their technique like, "Ooh, I like that," or, "Oh, I don't like that." And then you're like, "Wait a minute, that's not the book."
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like when I read, or well, I don't read. I listen to other authors' books. I like, oh, I like how he did that. I'm going to have to steal that somewhere in one of my books. That's how I'm going to make the transition. Yeah, so I can see where.
Yep.
Um, and then the question I was going to ask you is: do you have a preference when you do listen to audiobooks? Do you prefer to have men and women read their male and female parts? Does one narrator do it all? Do you care?
Um, I kind of enjoy, like, one narrator. I feel like I don't know, it feels smoother to me. Now I say that and, um, I mean, the one book I've done, I did both the male and female, and we would change point of views between each, and each chapter, like, would change a point of view, and that might have sounded really nice with a male and a female, but we didn't do it that way, and, but I don't know, me personally, I think I like the consistent voice because, like, readjusting every time, um, depending on the male and the female voice can, to me, bring me out of the story again. Like, if a narrator is good at what they're doing, it doesn't matter if they're a male or a female, you know who's talking anyway.
Right.
And that
So,
would be especially annoying if you really liked one of the narrators and really, really hated the other one.
Yeah, that could be difficult, right? Mhm.
I think it was Tom Brokaw who wrote a book, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something, 10, 12 years ago. And he did the narration of it. It's like, oh, Tom Brokaw, he used to read the news, right? This should be fine. It was unlistenable,
Yeah.
absolutely horrible.
I can
And
imagine he would be hard to listen to.
I mean, on the news, it's fine, right?
Yeah, in
He's great to
10-second
listen to.
clips, right?
Right, exactly. But yeah, listening to him read a book was just awful.
Yeah.
oh, and Tracy, I just want to say, Adam Fernandez, he has audiobooks for all his books, and his first two is just one narrator, and then
Mhm.
he's like, Mike, when you listen to this one, tell me what you think of this one. I used male and female for the different parts or whatever, and I was like, oh, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And then that was like two chapters in. Then like when I was at chapter 10, I was like, yeah, I don't even notice anymore because when I hear the theme, I know the character, and I'm like, it totally doesn't matter. But just at the beginning, it really threw me for a loop, and then you settle in, and both narrators were great. So it really doesn't. I don't know if it matters as long as it's done well.
Yeah, honestly, if the story's good and draws you in, I think after the first few minutes anyway, you settle into who's narrating it. And so even the ones that you think, "Oh, they're not so good," if the story's drawing you in, um, then you kind of I mean, that's the goal of the narrator, right? Is for you to forget that that's a narrator and that you're just totally pulled into this story. So if they can do that and be a true storyteller, then they've got some quirks and weird things, you forget about it eventually.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a series of um, cozy mysteries right now, and the first 3 or 4 books in the series were all narrated, and I want to say her name is Marianne Hussey.
Mhm.
Just fantastic, and she inconveniently went and died.
Oh,
So the rest of the series, or the next book, is by someone else.
yeah.
And yeah, the first few chapters, it was really, especially if you listen to one book after the other, it was really kind of difficult for a few chapters not to still kind of hear that other person's voice, and you're kind of like, oh, really like this person, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, after about half a dozen, it's all just kind of
Well,
under
it's
the
the
bridge.
same things like when they redo a movie or have like, whatever movie number 4 and they've changed who's like or a show that might change the character. It's the same thing. It takes a while to get used to, but I love the cozy mysteries. You sit down and listen to the cozy ones?
Yeah. When I drive, they're good.
Yeah, that's nice.
You know, EL, there's something to that, but I mean, I've also read or listened to books that I had to question whether or not I would have liked the book if I read it because the narrator was just that good. And it was thankfully the narrator was that good because when I really kind of thought about it, if I was reading those words on a page, it's like I don't think I would have liked the story as much.
Yeah, Dungeon Crawler Carl is one. If you're not listening to that on audiobook, you're just doing it wrong.
Yeah, it can go either way. The
Yeah.
the narrator can make you want to listen even if you don't love the book, or the book can make you listen even if you don't really love the narrator. So it can kind of go both ways. It's beautiful when they work together.
Exactly. That is kind of nice. A bugger. I had a question.
You had a
Did
question.
you just
and
have a
missed
senior
it.
moment?
I did, like right here.
Right in front of all these people.
That happens all the time. Please, Mike, jump in there.
Okay. How did you get into voice acting?
Oh, okay. Well, voice acting, I will say, is kind of I'll use the overused expression, my second act. I used to always want to do something with my voice. Like ever since I was a kid, I was always the one that would like jump in and be like, you know, I'll read in front of the class, or I'll read the story, or I'll get up on the stage and give me a microphone, or all of those kind of things. I would do the reading for people's weddings. I mean, even if I didn't go to church, I would still do the reading. I love to do that. So I've always done that. I um, dabbled in, like, went to some classes in college and did all that. But the practical side of the brain, whichever side that is, I can't remember, um, said, no, go to college, get a degree, get a corporate kind of job, and I did that instead. And so, I was in IT. I was a director in IT for a lot of years, and was always training there, using my voice there, did all that. And so finally, I got to the point where, I was very burnt out on um, IT work, like everybody, right? Like after a while, you're done. I can't implement another project. I can't talk to another bank. I can't do any of that anymore. And I left and took some time off. And then I started training and working towards it. And I started that in 2018. Um, and it hasn't really been until I went full time, working at it full time, training, coaching, doing all that in 2018. Um, and then I did some, teaching for a while because, the practical side said, "It's gonna take a few years to start making any money at this." And so I was like, maybe I wasn't quite ready to quit and go full-time voiceover just yet, because, you're an actor and actors struggle, right? So, thankfully, um, my husband is very supportive of, my new choice of careers, but I've been doing it since 2018, and, so I'm full-time working at it now, training constantly, auditioning constantly, doing all of that. So I'd say the love of doing voiceover work started forever ago, but really I've just only been in it the last 6, 7 years fully.
Is it difficult to kind of you hear about singers and stuff going to voice coaches and things like that, and obviously you've never heard me sing, and no one has, and there's a reason. But in the service, we were doing a thing where some drill instructors came over and kind of told us how to kind of dig down deep, because if you start yelling at
Mhm.
people all day
Yeah.
as you have to do in that particular job, they said you'll wear your throat out.
Yeah.
So it was all kind of kind of nonsense,
Mhm.
where you start learning to yell from down in
Right.
your chest instead of in your throat. Did you have to do a lot of that to kind of get through doing books?
Yeah, you absolutely do. You have to learn how to breathe, you have to build up your stamina. That's the thing too. Some people, like I said, I was doing an hour and a half or so in the booth. Part of that is stamina of your voice. I mean, you have to do everything to make sure that you can do the long sessions when you need to. And so knowing and training on, you know, if I have to do this comes up a lot more in animation where you might have a character that's really loud and screaming and doing all that. Like, I don't do a lot of yelling and screaming in my audiobooks, but you do have to be really particular about where the sound's coming from. Are you using your chest voice, your head voice? You have to warm up every day, regardless of if you're in the booth. You have to do all of these things. And I will say, as you get older, just like any muscle, you have to keep working it, or damn age will make you start
Damping.
sound different, It can't leave our voices alone. Everything takes that. So you have to train it just like anything else. So yeah, I watch a lot of videos on, good warm-ups, vocal health care, how to use it. I had a coach that was really particular about helping you figure out, what part of your throat and your diaphragm are you using. So yeah, you got to do all that. Keep it tuned.
There's a voice in my head right now telling me not to ask you this question,
Uh-oh.
but there's another one in my head saying this might make for fun video. So could you take Mike and I through a typical warm-up session? Because Mike and I don't warm up before we do the show, and maybe that's our problem.
Oh,
Maybe
that could
that's
be
where
your
we're falling down.
problem.
Or prepare
Oh.
either. That couldn't be it though. The lack of prepreration.
All
And
right,
yet
would
we
you
still
like
do
would
an
you
hour
like
every
to
time.
try a tongue twister? Because tongue twisters are everybody's tool.
Sure. Let's do it.
Well, let me see. What's my favorite? I literally do this every single day. Can you do red leather, yellow leather?
Red
Red
leather,
leather,
yellow
yellow
leather.
leather.
No, nope,
Can you say a big black bug bit a big black bear and the big black bear bled blue?
no.
I can't remember it all. I mean, I could say it. I'd have to have it written down in front of me.
Those are some of the things that you do. So yeah, no, I go through probably about a 10-minute warm up. Sometimes longer. Sometimes I like to just get in the booth and I make sure no one's home, because I'm sure if they're standing outside the door, they can hear me. But I'll put on some videos and sing for a while. I always sing in the car, so that can be counted as your warm up. So if you guys like to sing in the car before you come live, that could be a good warm up for you.
Wow. What do you sing? What's your music of choice?
Oh, this is embarrassing, but I will tell you. I like to sing Selena Gomez, Love You Like a what's it called? Um, it's a stupid song anyway, but but it's right in my range. I like that, and I also like the Eagles a lot. So I'll sing a lot of Eagles or Tracy Chapman. So those three, I'll pick whichever songs I'm feeling.
Those are all very different things.
They are, and it's kind of fun, and it depends on how I'm feeling and which range I'm in that day. Like a love song. Thank you, Delana. Love You Like a Love Song. That's the song, and it's really fun. So anyway, those are my warm-up songs.
So we have a slew of questions from EL.
Okay.
Yeah, but
because,
half of those are because he wasn't here on time. She's answered them already.
yeah, I know.
Go back and rewatch it, EL.
How often do you audition? Did you tell us that? And I just forgot.
You audition daily. And
Really?
yeah.
So you kind of have to set a kind of a time schedule of like, okay, I'm going to do this for an hour and a half, and then I'm going to do auditions for a couple of hours, and then I'm going to go drink alcohol for a couple of hours to kind of soften up the
oh
throat.
yeah, that's great for your throat. I I tend to like to do my auditions in the morning. In fact, most of my recording I like to do before lunch. There's something about after lunch that my voice gets a little crunchier and weaker, and sometimes that's a great sound. So depending on what I'm working on, I might be like, ooh, I'm going to record this in the afternoon because I'm crunchier. But if I want a nice crisp audition, I'll do like my commercial auditions first, and then any audiobook auditions that I'll do every day, those take a bit longer. So you have to kind of time box your day and make sure you have enough time to do those.
And
how do you keep the voices separate? If you've got a book with a dozen characters or whatever,
Mhm.
I mean, especially if there's one that you start on chapter 1 and they don't come back until a couple of chapters later. Is
Yeah.
it a matter of you kind of going back and replaying it and saying, oh, okay, yeah, that's what this is? Or do you have like notes in front of you saying what these voices are?
The answer is both. So generally, when I'm narrating a book, I'll like hang up like the character chart in my booth, and I'll have like specific, like the name of the character, the age of the character, male, female, obviously. And then I'll put like the characteristics, like higher pitch, faster pace, slight drawl, or whatever my indicators are that I want to do. And I'll have that written down. So while I'm narrating, but after I've narrated them for a little bit, what I'll do is I'll take a sound sample of my voice doing them. And then I'll just save that as a voice sample for each character. So you'll have like a character file for each, say there's 10 characters in the book, you have a sample file, so that if they showed up in chapter 1 and not again until chapter 10, and you've narrated all these other voices in between, you can go back and listen, read it, kind of get them back into your head in terms of what choices you made for their voice. And hopefully you can match it again and stay consistent throughout the rest of that chapter.
So do you read a chapter from front to back, or do you go through, it's like, okay, I'm going to read all of character A and then all of character B and then kind of put them together?
I like to go through the chapters. I don't like to do the dialogue separate, because for me, and probably a lot of narrators, I don't know, everybody might do it a little bit differently, but I'm in the chapter, I really get into the story, right? And I feel like if I were breaking it up and saying, okay, oh, just go read these lines, um, I don't feel like it's as good, or it's as meaningful or connected, unless I'm like really fully in the chapter, feeling the scene, feeling what's going on, and then, really getting into the character. Cause like I've been in the booth where I've had to leave the booth because I'm narrating a scene that actually made me cry because I got so into it. So I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to need a minute. I'll be right back. And you pause the recording and go out of the booth. So like I like to be in the moment and really feel it. So that's how I do it.
Yeah.
Right now?
Hey, come on, we've seen the guy who does what's his name? Oh my God, I can't think of people's names. The dude who does
Seth
Stewie.
MacFarlane.
Yeah, McFarlane. He sits there and goes
Gonna
through
go from
like
voice
20
to
of them.
voice.
Come on now.
Yeah. This is starting to sound like an audition there, EL.
I don't think you can outbid his current narrator since he does it himself.
There you go.
Although maybe you could, because then he wouldn't have to do it.
And that brings up a fine question. Lovely
Mhm.
segment, Michael. So for the people who are insistent on doing it themselves,
Mhm.
what are the 3 to 5 must-haves that they've got to have to do a professional quality job, and where should they not be skimping and trying to save a buck?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to have a great mic and a sound treated space. So you hear, you've got top quality. You have to have top quality.
And what's a great mic running these days?
You don't have
It's
to
not this one.
you don't have to spend millions, I'll be honest. Like a lot of people think the first thing they need to do is run out and get the most expensive mic, and you don't need to do that. There's a lot of good condenser mics that are, a couple $100, all the way up to, a few thousand. But my mic here is a Shure Beta, and it costs me probably like $400. So, and it doesn't have to be the most expensive, but you do need a good mic. You need to be in a nice, quiet place. You need to be able to manage your recording software. So whatever you use, I like Adobe Audition. I can also use Reaper. There's different DAWs that I use to record, but my favorite is Adobe Audition right now. They have to be able to manage some software, because yes, if you have a lovely voice, that's like, just the tip of the iceberg. You have to be able to record yourself and edit and, create files from that and all of that. So you need some of those skills as well. Where I would not skimp is, the mastering at the end. I mean, it's great to do it yourself, but it's time consuming. You can miss things. I feel like having a separate set of eyes or ears, if you will, listen to what you've done is kind of important. So even if you just have another reader so that you haven't missed things, because I'll tell you, you can be reading something and you think you've said, I don't know, whatever the sentence might be, the window pane was, you know, chipped and broken, blah, blah, blah. And you could say the window pane was broken and chipped. Like, you're going to reverse things. You're going to say things wrong. I mean, I've inserted words that weren't even words, and you don't hear it yourself when you're narrating and you're listening back. So I think I would have a listener for you for sure. And, don't skimp on someone doing the mastering for you so it sounds top quality and we don't hear any dogs or all of those kind of crazy things that can bleed in. And anybody with a mic can audition on ACX, any kind of mic. That doesn't mean they should. You need some training, you need some work. And, I think people underestimate how much work it takes to narrate an audiobook. I mean, you guys are writers. How long does it take you to write a book, right?
Ugh.
Far too long.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a labor of love.
Well, that depends. Do you count all the procrastination when I'm playing video games rather than writing? Because that's a very different answer.
Well, are you thinking about the book while you're playing the video game?
I am actively trying to not think about it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, then no, you can't count it.
So when an author sends you something, what are you looking for? I mean, how can we as authors help you? And part of that is the question I meant to ask earlier. If you're doing voices, is it entirely necessary to have all the conversational tags and the he said, she said kind of things? Because the voice should tell you who's speaking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So what can we give you to make your job easier and the product better?
Yeah. Well, that would be like I have narrated a book that like every line was a he shed, she shed, and they added it, and I was like, boy, it'd be really nice to drop this off. And so, like giving like rules of engagement for the narrator, in terms of, do I have to narrate, absolutely every word on the page? Or maybe you do a version that, cleans up the dialogue so you don't have all that. Because a lot of people write their books like that, and it's a different experience when you're reading it. But when you're narrating it, it really gets cumbersome if it's back and forth, he should, she should. I can't even say that many times, right? So yeah, that can be really disruptive to the story. So if you can give the narrator and say, you don't have to do that all the time, give rules, give pronunciations, all the things you would want them to do. If you give them that information when they agree, what do they call it? I have had some authors, they've got like a whole kind of like, it's not the right word, but like a whole press kit of character profiles and story information and pronunciations and whatever. If you have a little guide, oh my God, you're like, best authors ever if you have something that you can share like that. But you don't have to. You don't have to. I do think when you're creating your audition, though, specs, a lot of authors will just take like their first chapter or something and throw that out there. It's much better if you can pull some of the scenes that can give you different like experiences that you want to hear the narrator, bring to life. Like maybe a scene with some conflict, or maybe a warm scene, or think about different scenes that you could put together that you feel like would round out the characters so that you get a really good sample of the narrator's voices, and so you can get a better feel, because everyone can narrate the beginning, right? A narrator's voice, but once you get into dialogue or the emotional scenes, that's where you really want to see if someone can narrate your book.
So if you had your choice
Mm-hmm.
to narrate, is there a certain genre that you would just love to narrate, or certain style, or is there something that just like, yes, I want to do this before I'm done?
I would love to do a sci-fi book. I would love to do a fantasy book. I would love to do a young adult romantasy book. Like what's the name of the book I like a lot? Like Red Queen, Fourth Wing, Shadow and Bone. Like a lot of those like younger adult ones are super fun. I like those. I like to read those. So I would love to narrate books that I also enjoy reading. I would love to do a gritty, like dystopian book, because I like to read those as well. So I guess everything. I want to narrate stories that I enjoy the story as much as, or at least as much as the author or a reader does. So those are the books I look for, and it doesn't necessarily matter what genre. I do like memoirs too, though. So
So have you had it where you are narrating a book and the main character is male, or does it normally the main character
Mhm.
has to be female, or does it
No,
make a
I
difference?
I have, well, the one I did was dual, so dual narration,
Mhm.
dual point of view, so, like, one chapter would be from the male and one chapter would be from the female, and so I did that, for a 3-book series, went back and forth, so, that was fun. Okay, I would love to read an ultra-violent dystopian sci-fi about that. Sure, that would be a fun one.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly.
yeah. So EL, you know how to find her. It's scrolling at the bottom.
Mhm.
Uh,
All right, Michael, we're coming up on an hour here pretty quickly. Do you want to be rejected yet again, Mike, and ask your question?
okay, you know it's coming.
Yeah.
Would you rather be on the T-Rex or the Griffin as you're going down the main drag of Vienna, well, Virginia, and why?
The T-Rex or the Griffin?
Yes.
100% the Griffin. I would wanna fly down that road because there's too much traffic in
Oh my
Vienna,
God, it's
Virginia.
horrible.
So I'd rather fly. I'm so sorry, Mike, but, I mean,
Don't
the
be.
T-Rex, they can't even move the cars out of the way. I mean,
With
they
their
have
See,
mouth, they can pick them up and
it
toss
always
them.
comes down to the little hands,
the
Mike.
little hands, the little hands.
Ugh.
Yeah,
So EL has an opinion. I know that shocks
T-Rex.
people.
Mhm.
You gotta have
Oh,
somebody in the corner. That's fine.
Griffins are terrible answers. Oh, I failed.
You did
ugh.
not. Absolutely
Wouldn't you
not.
wanna fly, though? I mean, flying
Yeah,
sounds pretty
yeah,
cool.
that's right.
Okay,
You can just
hold
avoid
on,
the traffic altogether.
Yeah.
Ro. I'm doing something, so take it over.
Oh, right. Um, I'm not sure where to go with this now. I think we have what what have we missed? No, the narrator life. What do we need to know that you have to go through that we don't appreciate enough?
Mm, that's a really good question.
I'll do
Um,
my best.
I think, one of the things that comes up, I believe, is everybody thinks, like, if you can read a book, you should be able to narrate, and you should be able to read it in the 8 hours it takes to read the book and finish my project in, like, 4 days. I think authors kind of underestimate, not all authors, but a lot of people that put books out there or even think about what it takes to do audiobooks, um, think they're too expensive and they should be done quicker or whatnot. And I think, when people are buying audiobooks, you can get books really cheap, right? Like, on your Kindle or in unlimited, or you can find books wherever. But audiobooks, they also cost money. And I think a lot of people complain about how much they are, but I think people also underestimate how much work goes into creating an audiobook. And so I think not just on the author's part, but, the narrator, the engineer, and getting it there. Like EL had said, for him, it's 3 to 1, right? For every finished hour you're listening to, the narrator alone took at least 3 hours working on it. And then there's usually an engineer involved. And so, just because you read bedtime stories, I learned this because that's part of the reason I got into it. I loved to read stories out loud, but wow, once I started learning how to narrate, there's a lot more to it. So that's all.
So Ro, this is for you.
Uh-oh.
Uh, if this was cheaper, I would have bought this for you.
Gee,
What does
thanks.
he have?
Oh, very nice.
But yes, Darth Jar Jar. It was a 36 by 18 painting, and I was like, Ro really needs to have this. But
No,
alas,
he doesn't.
Well,
I
you
was
can
not.
have it as your background.
That is an idea. I think
Mhm.
I need to do that now.
It could be
But
background.
Nobody
So
needs.
I'll tell you a story and tell me what your thoughts are on
All
it.
right.
So for the book that I'm having now, Proxima Station, I have it narrated. Um, I had talked to an author a couple months before, and he's like, you know what, I really want to have an audiobook, but I can't afford it. Those narrators are just too darn expensive.
Hmm.
How dare they?
Hmm.
He's like, so I'm just going to look into AI voice from Amazon because it's free that way, and why not?
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what, you do you. It's not the choice I want to make, but whatever.
Hmm.
And so then fast forward about a month ago, and I saw that he had a couple books out by the narrator, and I end up using this narrator, so I don't mind using his name. His name is Son of Sonnet.
Hmm.
But when I saw it, I was like, Son of Sonnet. It's not a real name. If you look at like his address or whatever, he just has a anime character for this picture. I'm like, so you don't see an actual person. Son of
Hmm.
Sonnet's his name, and it says he lives in Ohio. And I'm like, is this just an AI voice and Amazon's trying to be clever here or what? So I saw another author also used Son of Sonnet. So I got the book, I listened to it, I was like, okay, the book is good and it's definitely if this is AI, then we're all in trouble. So I reached out to the first guy, I was like, hey, I know you said you were going to do it. Did you do it? He goes, I tried. It was miserable.
Mm.
I quit after like 30 minutes. He goes, it just no, just absolutely not. I was like, so Son of Sonnet is an actual person. He's like, yes, he's a great guy. Absolutely love him. You know, can't say enough. I was like, okay, but I mean, his rates were very cheap. I mean,
Hmm.
he puts out a good product, but I mean, it just scared me when I saw you're not giving me a real name. You have an
Yeah.
avatar. You live in Ohio. I mean, why would you live in Ohio if you have a choice? It's a free country. Come on.
That's what threw you was Ohio, nothing else. It was the Ohio
Yeah,
that
just
was
the
the deal
Ohio.
breaker.
But do you worry about AI voice, or is it truly as terrible? Because I've not even attempted to go down that road. Is it really
Yeah.
that bad? Have you looked at it or listened to it? I
Well,
guess.
yeah. I mean, of course, you're worried about it, right? But I think more and more people that think, oh, I'm going to go do the free, ACX, they're the Audible, free for me to make an AI book in a matter of minutes. I can have it out there. Um, They usually I'm hearing more and more stories like yours. I tried it, I've come back to human. I've come back to human, right? We're getting a lot of that also in not just I mean, I honestly, I don't think as many people are doing it in audiobooks because frankly, they can't get through it. AI is getting better, but it misses so much of the emotions of the story,
Right.
and the sounds and even the imperfections in the breaths, like, it doesn't do that, and those are part of the story, not just clean, crisp words. Um, but, like, e-learning genres are getting attacked by the AI voices. A lot of people are just doing AI for those kind of things because they can pump them out faster. But thinking about audiobooks, like, if you have a 10-hour book and you get a narrator that charges, 2, 300, you're talking like a grand to 2 grand for your audiobook, right? Sometimes less depending, maybe they only charge 150 bucks an hour. Um, and, it just depends, like, if I would rather spend $1,000 and get a human voice and not get, like, poor reviews and have that impact me and, reputation issues and all of that if you can afford it. I feel like you should wait until you can spend the 1,000 to 1,500 to do an audiobook or maybe not do one because the AI is really gonna do I feel like it does more harm.
Yeah.
But people who try it are coming back, I've met a lot of authors that are like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way I'm doing an AI book," and I'm like, "Thank you." Um, you
Especially
know
with fantasy, because what you said before, all the
Gosh.
names and stuff that we make up.
Yeah,
I mean, people have a hard time with it. The AI is certainly going to jack it up.
and
So
when you have all those characters, I mean, if you have a well-written book and a well-narrated book, people get behind the narrator, the characters, the way they sound, and I mean, if you do that in AI, people are like, "Nope, next," they know it, they feel it, it's not the same.
Yeah. I would
absolutely,
say, look, just like writing, I'm not really too concerned with AI because an AI is just I mean, it guesses what the next word should be. So how's it ever going to write emotion? How's it ever going to narrate emotion? It
Right.
doesn't know what it is.
Yep.
It's just I love next word you.
Yeah.
But how do you say that? Depending on the scene, and it doesn't know.
Right.
So
Mhm.
everyone gets all uptight, and I'm like, if you want to read AI books, go for it.
Yeah.
Your
Watch
brain
that
will
one.
rot fast. Play video games instead. You're getting a better story.
Yeah. As a listener, I mean, not even just as a narrator myself, but as a listener, I don't wanna listen to AI books. They hurt.
Yeah,
You can
yep.
tell it's just not a good experience. I'd rather just read.
Rather listen to Charlie Brown's teacher.
There you go.
So if I'm
Right.
going to do my own book, which I'm never going to do because I hate
Mhm.
my voice and I will never listen to it. So, there goes the editing. But is it more important that you're very clear, or do you have to do voices? Do you feel? Because I mean, I've had narrators that just are very clear when they read the story and they don't try to do voices, and it just
Mhm.
feels, kind of monotonous. Like this is the pinnacle of AI. They might get to this point at some point where every word is weighed at the,
Yeah.
what. So what would be your advice if you're reading? Because some people say I want the author to read it because then I know everything is said the way the author thought it should
Mhm.
be said.
Right.
Versus then I've heard people like, yeah, but authors don't know the craft.
Right.
Well, plus some authors sound like us.
Yeah,
So there's that.
I think what's important is, if the narrator needs to kind of disappear into the background, right? And you're bringing the author's intention and words to the ear, right? So it doesn't matter, in my opinion, like whose voice actually does that. If they are actually um, making your words and hitting your intention with the emotions, that's important. I think what's harder for an author, if I were to say, if you said, would you rather hear the author's voice who might not perform it, or a narrator's voice who will give it those intentions? I'd rather hear a narrator do that if they're not also a skilled, like, there's a lot of authors that are like skilled actors and stuff. I mean, I listened to, I don't know if you guys know the book, Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Do you know him? He was on
The late,
like, the
oh yeah,
comedian? Oh,
yeah.
he was a fantastic audiobook narrator. Stephen King, not a great narrator. Great writer, not a great narrator. So it's like, I think it kinda depends on, do you have acting background? This isn't just reading. And so, if you're an author and you're not an actor and whatnot, I really would I don't wanna alienate anybody, but I really would recommend using a narrator, someone who's trained and is an actor.
yeah.
'Cause that's our job, we're actors.
I would say that for my fantasy novels, they are so much better when you listen to them than if you read them on the page. I mean, he just did a masterful job.
I started listening to that this weekend, and I was like, "Oh, I like listening to him." Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good listening voice, a good story, he's bringing it to life. I've really been enjoying it. Granted, I'm only in 2 chapters, but I liked it so far.
oh yeah, I tell everyone he makes it so much better. Get the
Better than
audiobook.
your words?
Oh, absolutely. So, and he's actually, I've noticed when I was like reviewing, he was like reading the sentence and there's a typo where I
Mhm.
put them instead of they, and he just went naturally what you would say and just glossed over the fact that what was written on the page was wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, now I have to go change that now. But yes,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Sometimes we have to do that. That's part of I think one of the questions before, someone said, "Have you ever turned down a book?" Yes, I have, and it's because, like, the author didn't even really edit their own work, and as you're reading through it, it's like, I'm not an editor. Like, yeah, you're gonna make a mistake here and there. You might find a them versus a they, or something like that on occasion. I mean, a lot of books have those little, "Oops," it got missed. But if it's prevalent through the whole book, that's not a book I wanna narrate, because I don't wanna end up being the editor too. They
Right.
need to have edited themselves already, professionally, and have it pretty error-free if possible.
Yep.
I had someone recently, they had use 2 different names for the same character in a chapter. I was like,
Oh, yeah, we
"Oops."
do that.
I was reading it. I wasn't narrating. It was just a book I was reading. I was like, "Oh." I go, "I think this is the same person," and I had to, like, flip back, and I'm like, "Yep, they must have, like, mid-edit decided to change the character's name at some point and missed a correction," and I was like, "Oh." So, it happens.
Sometimes people even, just repeat
Whole chapters?
words or whole chapter. Yeah, you
That's
never
never
know.
happened to you guys, I'm sure.
I don't recall. No, no.
Right. Well, Tracy, we have managed to get through over an hour. Thank you very much for hanging out with us for a bit.
Well,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you
That was
for
really
inviting
good
me.
information for
Yeah.
us to have, and now I know that I will never do my own audiobook.
Yeah, well, I've got lots of friends in the industry, so if you need some recommendations on male voices in addition to my voice, let me know. Happy to help you find some great, narrators.
Awesome.
We
Thank
will
you. And
do.
everyone, go to www.twovoice.net and you can find Tracy's work there. Tracy, thank you so much. This hour just flew.
It
So
did.
Yeah, it was really,
I was
really
worried we wouldn't have anything to talk about for a full hour, but wow, look at that. Here we are.
then
So
you saw a couple shows and you knew that, yeah, we would just notch it up.
thank you so much for inviting me. And Mike, I met you in person already. And Ro, maybe we'll meet each other when I'm in Vienna. We're up
just
the road
walking
from each
around.
other. So, yep,
Go down to the British food store and
exactly.
get
Yeah.
something down there.
So it's been a
Um,
pleasure.
for everyone else, thank you for spending your time with us as well. And Mike is back on Thursday at 7 with
Mike is
Mark
back.
from the Book Lounge. And unfortunately, I probably won't be here because I will be driving home on Thursday. So
Okay.
unless you want to make it a 9:30 show instead of a 7 o'clock show, you'd be on your own. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We'll just talk about you. That's fine.
You wouldn't be the first, you won't be the last.
Okay.
Yes, with my wife. Get to go
Okay.
clean my garage, see my cats.
Okay. Well, Tracy, thank you again. The only thing left is to wave awkwardly while we wait
Thanks,
for you
Tracy.